All right. It's going to be a good day. A little bit of rain in the area, but not too bad. We're gonna go out for a couple hours. And today I might show you a rig that I just got published on. Giving some advice about it. Looks like a good night for it. A little bit of rain in the area, but nothing to worry about. Should be past us. It's just a tiny little cloud and then we should be clear for the rest of the evening. So famous last words, I know, but we'll see what happens. All right. Bow to the practice pond. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the first real video that I'm making out of the TItanX 12.5 by Native Watercraft. I want to give a special shout out to Laura at the Riverside Kayak Connection. I believe that's the name. I'd also like to shout out Chris Cantwell for his help in helping me do some of the research and helping me, you know, by letting me take out his own kayak. Not a lot of guys will do that. So I do want to say thank you to him. Thank you to Chris and thank you to Laura for getting me in this platform. I'll leave their socials and their other things in the description so you can go ahead and go follow them or get in contact with them if this is something that you're interested in pursuing. I highly recommend this kayak, even though this is only the third time I've been out. I love the platform. We're coming out here today to the practice pond to really practice a rig that I just talked to Dave Mull about. Shout out to Dave Mull, who helped me kind of get a little bit more visibility in the community. He reached out to me after the state championship. I tied for second in that tournament, ultimately took fourth based on tiebreakers. But we talked a lot about a free rig, and tonight is actually a perfect time for that free rig. It's a good time for frogging. It's a good time for flipping. It's summer. It's hot. It's been like 95 degrees the last 3 or 4 days. So the pressure, barometric pressure, has been high. And that's when I find that the free rig really shines. So we're gonna go out here into a little 8-foot flat. And the free rig is really meant to be thrown over the grass. It keeps things out of the grass, but helps you target specific grass clumps. So you'll probably see me use the live scope a little bit here. But I'm gonna put the rig together, kind of give you some tips on how I use it, and we'll see if we can catch some. If we can't, looks like a topwater night, looks like a frogging night, looks like a 3/4 half-ounce flipping night. So this might get interesting here. So stick with us, stay tuned, and let's get to it. As you can see, I'm paddling through these weeds. One of the big questions I had too about this rig was how easy it is to get through the weeds, and I just went through what normally takes me quite a while to get out of. Something I've noticed about this hole compared to the PA14 is, for some reason, it's kind of snub nose, like a bull shark, but man, this thing is literally a water hippo. It's so agile, it's so easily maneuverable that getting through weeds, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's just more contact surface on a PA14, so it's it has much more contact with weeds. I don't know, that might be the whole design, but it really does come through those weeds a lot easier, to the point where I can almost effortlessly just paddle it standing up. That's pretty cool. But once I get out of these weeds, I'll drop the propeller. Last time I was in these long stringy weeds, I learned that the propeller really eats them up, and I don't feel like cleaning them off right now. All right, here's the big upgrade. Seems small, but it's important. It is the paddle holder right here. Bang. What I really need is a leash for this drive, because this thing is heavy, and if it goes over, that thing is never coming out of the muck. The other thing that I've invested in here is a mount for the drive so it can hold my net. I've seen someone else do that and I really liked it, so we're gonna try that as well. Just had one rise up right there. So here, like I was saying, I like that little spot where you can just rest your stuff. This feels like the right kind of day. All right, so the free rig. I'm gonna show you how I rig it, talk a little bit how we use it, and hopefully you can add it to your arsenal. Basically what you need is your fluorocarbon. This is probably like a 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon to the 15-pound braid. I'm going with a little heavier setup today because I'm around weeds and stuff, and normally if I'm in like fresh water, by that I mean like big, open, St. Clair type water, nice and clean, not a whole lot of things to get hung up on, I'll go 8, 6 pound, get a little finessey with it. But because I'm around some pretty hefty weeds, I'm gonna stay around 10 to 15 pound. I'm gonna go with a cylinder weight here, and the most important part of that is that weight can travel up and down the line. It's just an open eye here. This is a 3/16, I believe, cylinder weight, and the whole idea is this drops straight down and it leaves the bait above to float down, depending on how you use it, and I'll show you how you do that. I was at Bass Pro today and found these really cool 2/0 Superline Gamakatsu hooks, so I'm gonna give this a try. It's a beefier hook for sure. I'll be able to stick them with a lot more power using it, and you know, this setup's really made to not worry too much about breaking off. When you're on 6 and 8 pound, it's more of a sweep. This one I'm gonna give them a little bit more business, but so one of my favorite baits ever to use with this technique is called a Smallie Beaver. Reaction Innovations makes it. I don't really want to go through all my Smallie Beavers because they're kind of hard to find. So I'm just going to use the normal Sweet Beaver. This is a 4-inch bait. And like I said in the article, I don't separate these phalanges because what I want it to do is kick much like a bluegill would instead of a craw, because it will be so high off the ground here. And you'll just Texas rig this like normal. Just put it through there. This is an EWG Superline 2/0. So it's just Texas rigged. And then basically, yeah, like in the article, it talks about how to throw this. But what happens is when you throw it out there, if you do it right, this hits the ground first and lets this kind of spiral and float down like that. And then you pop it and it does the whole shebang again. You can hop it very close to the bottom. You give it a big pop, let that fall, and now this has a lot more, maybe a foot of fall to it. And there's a few tricks to using it correctly. So I'm gonna show you those and hopefully we catch some fish. Let's go. So in front of me, we basically have a giant grass flat, 8 to 9 feet, 10 foot on that side, more like 6 to 8 on that side. And what you're gonna do with this here, first let's make sure our drag is set. I had a wacky rig on it, so you always wanna check that drag. Maybe give it half a turn more. All right, so with the free rig now, here's how you're gonna wanna chuck it. If I'm using the live scope, I'm gonna be starting to find these individual towers of weeds. But for right now, I just wanna show you how to chuck it, all right? You're gonna throw it out there, lift your rod, and then give it line so that that weight can get down, all right? Now what you don't see is that bait is now slowly falling to wherever that line weight hit, all right? Anytime you pull is gonna bring that bait down faster, right? So you really just kind of want to let it sit. You pull up slowly, right? Now, if you pop it, it pops up, that weight falls, and it starts the whole suspension again. And you're kind of waiting to feel a thunk, much like a wacky rig thunk, I would say. It's a weightless thunk. So if you've ever thrown anything weightless, you know how that feels. And you're just gonna keep doing that. So you see how I lift the rod? That gives it a ton of line for that weight to basically eat up and leaves the more buoyant bait floating above it. Give it a couple hops, maybe one aggressive hop. And it's actually the hop that you're trying to figure out. You're trying to figure out, hey, do these fish want that big hop where that thing's falling for a foot, foot and a half, or are they wanting it more on the bottom? Much more like Jika rig style, maybe Tokyo rig style. hopefully I can get a bite here and show you what that hook set looks like too, because that's super important. More often than not, they're gonna hit the free rig on the fall on that initial first drop. So you got your rod tip up, then you drop it really quickly to give the line to the weight. Let the weight take the line from you, and that leaves a lot of line on the other side while the buoyant bait is still kind of falling. Now, if you've got a different type of bait on, maybe one with more phalange kick, kind of like a Strike King or something like that, rage tail type bait, here's something else you can do. Chuck it out, and then don't give it line. Just keep your rod tip pointed at it, and what that's doing is it's swinging the bait back towards you. That is much more Texas rig, right? Oh, he just got smacked. That's more, he's got it again. I need a little tighter knot here. So, right there, okay? You're pointing, you're keeping your line tight. It's swinging with the bait. So now the bait's falling with weight. It's not weightless. So one technique you can do is kind of switch between the retrieves and change the fall and the rate of fall of the bait, which is really cool, I think, because, you know, sometimes we talk about rate of fall, and you can actually, with the same bait, make this thing fall a couple different ways, which I think is awesome. I got a little excited there on that hook set. So you're just really, in the first time of using it, you're just playing with picking that rod tip up and then just letting all that slack be there. It's a weird feeling to give your bait that much slack. Once you feel the weight on the bottom there, then you can kind of tighten it up just a little bit, but you gotta keep in mind that anytime you're pulling the bait towards you, you're pulling it down first and then across. Because as you pull it tight, it pulls it down to the weight and then horizontal back to you. You're gonna wanna have a pretty sensitive medium light to medium rod for this so that you can feel the bite. Fast tip, super important on that fast tip. And you can mess with a few different retrieves here too. So you cast it out, hits the water, rod tip goes up, engage the reel, comes back down. Now you have all the slack in the line. That weight's gonna hit first, and that bait's just spinning around behind it. Second you give it a little tension, you start to bring the weight down to the ground. And you'll feel the bait hit the weight at some point once you get really in tune with this. And when that happens, you have a couple different options, right? So the weight's on the ground, I just felt the weight hit. The bait is falling slowly behind it, right? You're gonna let them look at that for a while, much like a weightless Senko. Let them think about it. Give it a little bit of tension, okay? Until you can feel your bait now touching the weight. Now when that happens, you have a couple options. You can work it like a jig, kind of bouncing towards you, or you can lift very slowly and then drop it. That's gonna lift it up, drop that weight down again. Or you can give that aggressive pop, and that's gonna make the bait come up very aggressively and then go slow. And really it's about a lot of changes of direction. I've noticed that the reaction style bites, they either happen, you know, because they're watching it fall slowly, and the second you give it tension, it moves a little faster and they hit it. Or you bounce it and they hit it, or it bounces away aggressively and then it stops and suspends for a second. The change of direction is what's the most important here. Change of direction, change of speed, change of rate of fall, all that. And as you catch fish with it, you'll start to learn more and more about what the fish are wanting. Now, most people will ask too, and I'm glad Dave wrote about it in the article, what about the Texas rig? Isn't that the same thing? Well, no, not really. Because what a bullet weight does, even if it's free to move about the country, is it's gonna glide. It just does. It's the direction of the bullet weight, it's the directionality of it, and the way it's on the line. It sits horizontally, right? So as it's falling, it's gonna naturally airplane, kind of like a paper airplane. The cylinder with the open style eye, straight down. piked. Piked, bro. All right, so I just got piked, but I want to show you this too. That is a teardrop style, so you don't always have to use cylinder. You can also use the teardrop style. Pretty much anything with that open style, I guess I call it hook attachment point. Basically anything with that open ring, not the pinch ring, but the open ring, so that it slides, will work. The biggest difference between the two I have read about is cylinder style for weeds, teardrop style for rocks. So, you know, keep that tidbit of information for yourself if you want. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter what you use. It just has to be not a bullet weight, because the bullet weight, like I said, will airplane. The cylinder and the teardrop, they just drop straight down. There's one. Oh, he got off. He's got it. Yep. So the cool thing about the free rig is when they've got it, you just give them a ton of slack. Well, not a ton of slack, but it's kind of like Carolina rig, because they eat it, they pick it up, and they don't even know they've got it. That's a decent first fish on the free rig right there. I think we're starting to put something together. Whew. Might have found a little flat of fish here. Took me a while to find them, but that's 2 or 3 bites in the span of a couple seconds. Now, the thing I like the most about the free rig is that once he picks it up, I mean, you can almost let him run with it while you reel down to him. So the bite in the hook set, you'll have to kind of learn. It's a very awkward and different type of thing where you feel him hit and you really want to give him a little bit. Give him a second to take it. And you have to remember that weight is on a sliding eye. So when they eat it, they're not going to feel the weight if you drop your rod tip. So if I can get another bite here, and it's hard to do, once you put your rod tip down and you feel a thunk, you can kind of just let them run, not too far, of course. Like, you want to reel down to them. But as soon as you feel tension, once your rod is about 3 o'clock, we'll say, like, that's when I would just hit them with the business. If I can get bit again, I'll try to narrate what I'm doing here. So you toss, raise the rod tip, engage the reel, let the slack take the weight, and just let that spiral, give it 2 to 3 seconds, and then a little bit of tension until it hits the weight. Pop, pop, let it fall. Let it fall on a completely slack line, pop, pop, pop. And then you can make a couple nailed casts. They're gonna hit this on the fall, so if they don't eat it in the first couple pops, don't be afraid to just pick it up and try again. And don't ever forget, you can change the retrieve. So let's say you toss it out, rod tip up, it's got the slack, it's falling down, weight just hit, weightless, 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 a little bit of tension, we've hit the weight. Now watch this one. You're gonna draw it up slowly and then drop your rod tip immediately. So now it's kind of swimming up, very slow fall. Toss it out, rod tip up, engage the reel, rod tip down. Now there's slack, and you can kind of watch your line, see if it jumps. So weightless, weightless, weightless. Little bit of tension till you feel the weight. And then you have the options. You can do a really aggressive pop into the sky, try to get a reaction bite. You can bounce it on the bottom there, kind of like a jig. See if that works. And there's just so many different ways to work it, it becomes extremely versatile. And again, depending on the bait that you've got on it, like let's try this one, right? Throw it out, keep your rod tip down, and then just hold the line taut, and that's gonna swing it like a Texas rig. And that'll make it fall a lot faster. Give it a couple pops. Maybe you do the pull up, drop it down, shaky, shaky. You know, try different things. The free rig is free for you, you know. It's how you want to roll with the free rig. Second I feel a thump, I'll try to narrate it. It's gonna be kind of hard, but I'm gonna do my best for you guys. As far as distance, I'd say 30 feet max. This is more of a targeting kind of approach. This isn't a chuck and wind deal. I mean, could be, I guess. If you're throwing it far, you could bring it back kind of, you know, jiggy. But to get the pop up, you don't want to be too far out or you won't get the vertical leap from your bait. Bit. He's running with it. And you just lean. That's a good one. So you see that he bit and he ran with it. I mean, he never knew there was something on the other side of the line. See, when you give him that time, he just runs with it and he positions it really well in his mouth. It was deep in his mouth, which is kind of where you want it. You don't want to skin hook him in the lip. So when you feel that thunk, don't panic. Take your time, reel down to him. He's going to take off, and that's fine. You want him to think it's real. Those of you that shake fish off, you know how long they hold on to it. It's a good second or two. You don't have to go that fast. And then you just lean into him. The hook set is not a monster hook set. Just stick them. Got it. It was a pike. That was cool. So I'm losing some light. I'm gonna run the cameras till they die. We'll see what happens, but thanks for tuning in. I hope that tip's helpful. Obviously, tonight did not go as well as I thought it would, but we caught a couple, and it kind of just goes to show when it's hot, when it's pressured fish, when they're not really feeling it, and you need some finesse technique to entice some type of bite, the free rig can buy you a couple bites, and that's really where it comes into play. I learned the free rig on those days when it gets hard. That's when it shines. When life is easy and you're catching them left and right, you can catch them on anything. That's not what this is about. This is about finding something that you can catch them on when you need to buy yourself a bite, or you got 4 and all of a sudden the bite turned off in a tournament and you need one more. I would use the free rig, because you can see 95-degree days, the water is 85 degrees. We'll see if we can trick a few more here and then we'll call it an evening. But you know, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for going and checking that article out. Make sure you go follow, I think it's called Woods and Water News. Go find Dave Mull. Shout out to Dave Mull. Shout out to Chris Cantwell. Shout out to Laura. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Oh, I almost forgot one of the last tips. If this is the first time you've thought about using the free rig and you really want to learn it, I highly encourage you, don't do what I'm doing. Don't take any other rods. Take one rod out, leave them all in the car so that you can practice. I did that with frogging, cranking, swim baiting, pretty much everything I've learned. I've put everything away so I can just focus on one thing and force myself to use it so that I can be successful. And to all the middle schoolers in the Phoenix community, well done on a good hard year. I hope you are all resting and having a great summer so far. I'll see you in a little bit for round 2.